nightmares that come from running a company. We had customers all over the world, and I just wasn't. I found myself as a father. I'd come to the office in the mornings and my daughter would be asleep. I'd come home in the evenings, and most evenings she'd be asleep as well. So I find myself watching my daughter growing up horizontal, not vertical. And I always had this dream of being super dad, of being there with my children. And unfortunately, that just wasn't the case. And there was kind of a blessing in disguise. At the end of 2008, a recession hit the United States, the stock market crashed, a number of things happened, and the sales of my company looked just like the stock market, straight down. So I went from no debt to 6 months later, $750,000 in debt at 32 years old. And so it was, you might call it a wake-up call. I really wanted to just go to sleep. Didn't know what to do with my life, and really frustrated. And what was an amazing blessing was the fact that I had been watching this company over the last 3.5 years. And I had some friends of mine who had made a ton of money. They were making way more money than I was. They had never, previous to getting started in WorldVentures, they had come nowhere close to the amount of success that I had had, but they were making way more money. And I looked at them and I thought, well, gosh, they're making several times more money than I'm making. It's not because they're several times better than I was. And it was just a matter of a different financial vehicle. The financial vehicle that I had, even though I was a decent driver, it wasn't getting me to where I wanted to be. And so I looked at this and I said, man, this is the best opportunity I've ever seen in my life to be able to not only make more money than I'm making, but more importantly, actually have the time to enjoy it. And instead of trading my life away, being stuck in an office. And so it has been the biggest blessing of my life from a financial standpoint and from a business and a lifestyle standpoint, the biggest blessing. And, this is my home office. This is about as much as I ever get dressed up anymore. And, in the last 10 years, I've referred about 300 people to the program, less than 2 a month on average. And that has turned into an organization that's grown to over 1 million customers, over $50 million earners on the team. I mean, you looked at some of the ranks earlier, the director, people wonder, well, can you really make any money doing this? Well, we've had over 5,000 people on the team hit the level of director or above. That level of senior rep that you may have seen, it's about $600 US per month. We've had 23,000 people hit that level or above. And so the kind of success that's been created, absolutely staggering. And I'll just, for those of you you're either a representative now or you're deciding to be a rep, you're saying, you know what, I'm in, I trust my friend. Obviously, numbers don't lie, results don't lie, it's working. So what do I need to do? And I'll just tell you, I'm going to give you my biggest piece of advice. And this is whether maybe you've been in for a year or two, maybe you're brand new. Here's one of my biggest pieces of advice. The reason why the winners win, the reason why the leaders hit the top rank in the company has nothing to do with the fact that we have natural talent. I mean, I had some experience coming into the company, but if you look at most of our leaders who have hit the top level, they don't have a background doing networking. They don't have a background doing referral sales or anything like that, team building. Maybe they worked a corporate job. I mean, Sachin Govender, the highest rank in our company, quadruple IMD. No single individual has ever done more than he's done as far as building out more positions or, more businesses here. And he came in at 18 years old, no experience at all, none. But he had a very solid work ethic, had a very ambitious heart. And here's what Sachin realized, here's what I realized, here's what the top money earners in WorldVentures have realized. When we joined WorldVentures, when we decided to get going, it's very simple. We just understood what we had our hands on. See, I knew this was going to be big. And today, the reason why I'm still working, still doing calls like this, still traveling around the world, is because I know where we're headed. I know how big this is. And if you look at, we all know the network marketing industry. I mean, anyone who has business sense obviously knows the network marketing industry can be amazingly lucrative. huge lifestyle opportunities. You have companies out there like Amway, Herbalife, Nu Skin, Mary Kay. They do billions of dollars in sales, and they've been around for 40, 50 years, some of them or more. And what you're seeing is a company that's been around for 14 years. We've done about $3 billion, but we're not doing even $1 billion per year yet. And so we've captured a tiny, tiny percentage of the market in the biggest industry in the world, which is travel. And within the travel industry and the networking industry, we are by far the running giants. I mean, we're so far ahead of number two. I can't even tell you what number two is doing. That's how much we've dominated. And so what's happening over the next few years, when we're doing $2 to $3 billion per year over the next 2 to 3 years, the question you have to ask yourself is, how much of that market do you want to have for yourself? And so when I came in WorldVentures, it was very simple. I understand what I have my hands on. Today, I understand what I have my hands on. And I will tell you this, in my opinion, everything rises to success or plummets to failure based on leadership. And it all starts with self-leadership. See, we all would love to have this magical leader who is somehow going to take us under our wings and sprinkle some fairy dust on us and make us hugely successful. And I'm just going to be very real with you. That leader, that magical leader doesn't exist. That magical leader doesn't exist outside of yourself, I should say. That magical leader is you. See, here's the mistake that I made early on in my career. Early on in my career, when I was young and I was working, I was always looking for this supreme mentor. I was always looking for this supreme leader. I was always looking for someone to basically that I could kind of leverage their excitement, leverage their commitment, leverage their confidence. And I will tell you, when everything changed for me, this is when it all changed. Is when I stopped looking for that leader on the outside and I decided to become one myself. Now you have some amazing leaders. I mean, I could go on and on about the leaders on this team. Sachin, obviously, is the number one leader on team expansion. You're going to get incredible mentorship, doing calls like this every week. No shortage of training, no shortage of leadership. But here's the reality. As long as you're looking at someone else and putting them on a pedestal, thinking, I can't do what they're doing, you will never step into the role of a powerful leader, and you'll never get the results of a powerful leader. So, admire the leader, learn from the leader, observe him, study her, but never think you can't go past them, because second best thinkers are invariably second best doers. And so we never want to be second best doers. We want to step into that role. And this is where the transformation happened for me. I was building an organization in a company long before I owned my own, company that I mentioned earlier. And I just never really stepped into the role. In my mind, in order to be a powerful leader, I had to have the results of a powerful leader. And this is why average people live average lives, is because they have average levels of thinking. And average thinking says this: when I'm making a lot of money, I will be a leader. But unfortunately, that's not the way leadership works. Okay, it's never have and then be. The real way that leadership works is you become the leader now, and then you'll have the results. So I decided to step into the leadership role. I told myself I'm the leader that every other leader wants to work with. And when I sat down with people, I would assume that role. I would say the things that a leader said. So I became the leader. I said the things that a leader said. I worked like crazy. I nonstop, just huge levels of effort, huge levels of confidence. Instead of saying, hey, I'm involved in this company, maybe you'd like to join it, here's how it works. I'd sit down with someone and I'd say, look, here's how it works, but here's what's important. When you lock arms with me, We go to work together. And if you're coachable and teachable, I'll make you unstoppable. I will not let you fail. Are you ready to get started? And suddenly, all of the people that I could never enroll before, because I was not a leader, and people want to follow leaders, people want to follow strength, they want to follow certainty. And when I was just showing up and going through numbers without the presence of leadership, I would enroll some people, but not very powerful. I would only enroll people that were at a lower level leadership than myself. And I'm going to tell you a law of leadership. You may want to write this down. The law of leadership says that people will only follow those that they perceive are at a higher level leadership than themselves. Now, what is the key word there? Perceive. And so even though I wasn't making a lot of money, I understood this principle. And I said, well, I better show up that way. I better say the things that a leader says, act the way that a leader acts. Now, you don't have to say, don't say you're making more money. Don't say you're making $1 million a year. You don't need to do it. I don't believe in fake it till you make it. Nothing like that. But just become the leader. And when you become the leader, you start saying the things that a leader says. And what happens is suddenly people are way more attracted to you. Now, none of this works without you going through the numbers. And it's an interesting thing. When I listened to a program years ago, it was Jim Rohn, the late Jim Rohn, Building Your Network Marketing Business. He had an interesting thing in there that really resonated with me. He said, if someone on a scale of 1 to 10, if their skill level is a 10 and you're a 1, you still win if you're willing to work 10 times harder. And so I remember when I decided to step into this leadership role, I was maybe a 3 or a 4 on that scale, that skill level. And there was my mentor, he was a 10. He was like a Sachin, or he was like a Shanae, you know, he was a 10. And I thought, wow, how could I ever make as much money as he does? And I remember Jim Rohn's words. And I thought, well, if I'm a 3 and he's a 10, if I work 4 times harder than him, I can make the same money as him. And so that's what I did. I finally decided, I had been involved in, doing this kind of thing for several years, 4 or 5 years. And I finally decided, I said, you know what? I'm going to step into the role of a leader. I'm going to say the things that a leader says. I'm going to act the part of a leader. I'm going to act with certainty and confidence, knowing where I'm headed, understanding what I have my hands on, and I'm going to work like crazy. And I went out and I personally enrolled 30 people in 1 month. Now, I don't know how I did it. I'd been working as a waiter. I had no credibility. I didn't have a nice car. I didn't have any rings or fancy watches or multiple homes or anything like that like I do now. I didn't have any of that. I just went crazy. And over the next 90 days, I worked as hard as I've ever worked before. I did more numbers in those 90 days than I'd ever done before. And an interesting thing happened. I did a lot of production. I made money. I got to a full-time income in 90 days because of stepping up as a leader, doing the numbers. 5+ presentations every day. But here's where it got interesting is I went from a 3 to about probably a 7 or an 8. My skill level got so high because I was willing to go do the numbers. Just crazy activity. People are like, well, how did you do it? How did you do it? Well, I made a list of 300 people. All the people that I was afraid to call before, I said, I'm going to stop being afraid to call them. I'm just going to make sure everyone in my life knows what I'm doing. And so I called everyone with passion and conviction and certainty. And I was relentless. And there were people who I didn't even know who they were. I still have my, I still collect business cards. So here's just like, I've got hundreds and hundreds of these. So whenever I'm out and about, I'm always asking people, hey, do you have a business card? And so here's how I sponsor people. I would call up someone and here's Glenn Martin. I have no idea who Glenn, I don't even remember meeting Glenn, but I would call Glenn and I'd say, hey, Glenn, it's Matt Morris. You still working at Southwest Solutions? And he's like, yeah, who's this? And I'm like, oh, it's Matt Morris. We met a little while ago. And listen, I know you're a super sharp guy. And listen, this is a very quick call. I just started a new business. It's booming like crazy. I was just calling to see if you're open-minded to taking a look at doing something else. And he'd say yes or no. If he said no, I'd drop the card and I'd call the next card. I mean, just literally running through the numbers, sorting through with passion and conviction and certainty. So how did I do it? I decided to do it. You are one decision away, only one decision away from going IMD. You're not a recruiting script away from going IMD. You're not a closing script away. It's not about you being a better presenter. None of those things are preventing you from going IMD. The only thing that's preventing you from going IMD is a real decision. See, I believe International Marketing Director, IMD, doesn't really stand for International Marketing Director. It stands for I made a decision, because that's what it takes. It takes a decision. And if I look at Chris and Peter on the team here, I mean, we have an IMD group within WorldVentures, and it's a daily report of people who are the top producing. They're bringing in the most people in their organizations aside from an IMD. Now, I'm at this sort of the top of the list, and this is, not counting IMDs in our group. This is just what we're doing outside of any IMDs that we may have in our organization. And Chris and Peter, almost every day, they're number one. The whole company. So if you're wondering, does this work in Africa? It works huge in Africa. Now, I know a lot of you are in South Africa where Chris and Peter are. It works huge there, but it also works in Uganda. It also works in Botswana. It works in Kenya. It works all over Africa. Okay, huge results. Now, Chris and Peter, I know them well. Why are Chris and Peter beating out just about everyone in our company every day? Here's why. Crazy levels of work. They're willing to just go out and do the numbers. Now, they've become pretty talented, but they weren't so talented when they got started. They screwed it up just like we all did when I got started. Even though I came from a networking background, even though I had a lot of skills coming in, when I came into WorldVentures, I screwed it up. I had a lot of bad meetings. Here's what you got to realize. Your money, your income in WorldVentures is going to be equal to the number of bad meetings that you do. When I say, what is a bad meeting? You go present to someone and you screw it up. You go present to someone and maybe you don't screw it up, but they don't enroll. Maybe someone tells you they're going to enroll and they don't. Maybe they sign up and they quit the next day. Go do 100 bad meetings. That was when I came in WorldVentures. It was like, all right, I know how this works. I need to go do 100 bad meetings as fast as I possibly can to get them out of the way. And then eventually it becomes where it doesn't even matter, driving 2 hours to go do a travel party and no one shows up. I've had that happen multiple times. I remember driving down about 4.5 hours to San Marcos, Texas to do a training event or to do a presentation. One guest was there and she didn't sign up, and I drove 4.5 hours for that one guest who didn't sign up. And I just understood that was one of my bad meetings. Now, an interesting thing happened. One of the guys who was there wasn't planning on doing anything with the company, but I did a training and something caught it. Something just sparked in him. Something I said, I think it was that the average IMD has made 55 personal sales. And that's the average of income of about $500,000 a year. And he sold knives. One time, one commission. And over the next year, he went marketing director, put in something like 2,000 people or over 1,000 people in his organization in the next year. All that came from a bad meeting with one guest that didn't show up, but he got excited at that meeting. So I actually made a ton of money. See, in this business, it's all about planting seeds. And the question is, how many seeds are you going to plant? Some of the seeds are going to die. Some of the seeds that you plant, you spend the time planting a seed and nothing comes from the seed. Sometimes you plant a seed and it grows a little bit and then it dies out. Okay? It dies out. But sometimes, and it's never going to be all of your seeds. Sometimes you plant a seed and it grows like crazy. Sometimes you plant a seed, you do a meeting and it grows like crazy. And it gives you a level of income that you never imagined would be possible. It gives you a stream of residual income. What I love about this company, what I love about it is if you're willing to just keep going and keep planting seeds and keep planting seeds and keep planting seeds over and over and over and over and over. If you're willing to just keep doing that, you will just continue to create new residual income streams that will pay you forever. See, I've been doing this for 10 years. I keep planting seeds, keep planting seeds, keep planting seeds. And a lot of them die out, but every once in a while, one grows like crazy. And that's another income stream that will pay me forever. I don't know any other business that can do that for you. So you got to be willing to just keep planting seeds. And here's a big thing. You got to stay focused. What leaders do is we have the ability to get laser focused. So there's going to be other people who are planting other crops next to you. And they're like, hey, you should be planting seeds over here. Our soil's better. And you like get distracted. And you're like, oh, maybe I should plant seeds over there. And you get sidelined. And well, I see this all the time. It's like someone else is planting seeds. You're like, oh, I want to go over to that field. And you start planting. There's always going to be someone on the next field saying, hey, come plant seeds with us. Come plant seeds with us. And over the last 10 years, I still remember there was a guy that was involved with me early on when I first got started. And he worked with us for, I don't know, about 9 months. And then he was like, there's a field over here where every seed you plant grows like crazy. So he went and he started planting seeds over there. And then he quickly realized every seed doesn't grow like crazy. So then he went to another field and another field and another field. And he's been in, I don't know, 15 different companies in the last decade, 15 or so in the last decade. If he would have just planted here and stayed focused, imagine the crop that he would have. Imagine. In fact, some of the crop that he left are still growing like crazy, but he's making no money on it. And so I'm just telling you, you got to know what you have your hands on. Know what you have your hands on. Step up as a leader. Act the part as a leader now. Do the things that a leader does now with excitement, with certainty. See, people follow excitement. People follow certainty. They follow strength. They follow commitment. They follow confidence. You need to be up. You need to be excited. See, I read a great book called Primal Leadership, and it talks about the transfer of energy. So sometimes we want to be cool and we want to present all the benefits. And here's why you should join WorldVentures, and here's why you should do it. But you don't really show your excitement. Show your excitement. Let people know why you're doing this. Get on fire, and people will come from miles away to watch you burn. So do it with excitement. Focus, crazy focus. See, I don't care what's happening to the left of me. I don't care what's happening to the right of me. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is what's happening directly in front of me. What is going to contribute to making me money now and into the future with WorldVentures? And I'm just telling you, this little card, this Dream Giver card, see, we've been able to build an organization that's grown to over 1 million customers without this. Today, being able to hand someone a card, $100 in value, whether it's a physical card or the digital cards that are available as well, you can give someone a $100 gift. And I love, this is my favorite, is after I go through the information with them, I say, listen, how many people do you know that would love it if you gave them a $100 gift? And I say, well, a bunch of people. And I say, do you think you could hand out a $100 gift card like I just did with you? What do they say every time? Yes. I shake their hand. I say, congratulations. Welcome to the team. Let's get you started. Here, in fact, I'm going to give you your first few cards. Let's go get you qualified. Okay. This card has changed the game because anyone can hand out a card. Anyone can give someone a $100 gift. See, last thing I'm going to talk about here is there's 3 primary questions that people have when they're looking at joining our business. Number 1, does it work? Obviously it works. No debating that. 40 plus countries, couple 2-3 billion in sales. It works beyond a shadow of a doubt. Lots of success stories. Only a fool doubts proof. We don't even have to talk about that. Second question is, can I do it? Third question, will you help me? Biggest one of that is, can I do it? This answers that question more than anything we've ever had. Now, today, access to 550,000 hotels and resorts around the world. Huge monster inventory. Our partner, I mean, largest group booking company in the world. Like crazy, 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 the kind of credibility we've got with this. But we haven't tied in dream trips. We haven't tied in anytime escapes. We haven't tied in dream breaks. We haven't tied it into the app. This is version 1.0. Wait till 2.0 happens. Wait till 3.0 happens. I'm telling you, this little card is an absolute game changer, and we haven't even seen the full power of it. So where we're headed. I mean, our company, we're doing about 5,000 dream trips a year, hundreds of thousands of people a year on dream trips around the world. And so we're sending people to resorts and hotels and cruise lines. And it's getting to the point where it doesn't make sense to only send people to other properties. It makes sense to send them to our properties that we actually own. So hotels and resorts and villas and condos around the world and cruise lines around the world that we actually own. And the vision of our founder, who is the most amazing visionary I've ever seen, his vision is not to own them just corporately. It's to have the leaders in our company, the international marketing directors, own the resorts and the cruise lines and the condos and the villas and own those with the company. So we build an organization and they're going to our properties that we actually own around the world. So my friends, you're seeing such a tiny percentage of what the reality is. And you can see, I love this on my wall, and you got an iceberg. See, what you see in an iceberg is just the top, and that's maybe 5 or 10%. But you got 90 to 95% is below the water. We have so much below the water that no one even sees yet. I'm telling you, over the next few years, we are changing the face of travel in a big way and changing the direct selling industry in a very, very major way. This has already changed it in a big way. Sales are dramatically way up because of this. We haven't seen anything yet. So listen, I appreciate you guys. Let's lock arms together. Let's go to work. Let's go create history together. Thanks so much for having me on.
Matt Morris, thank you so much. There were so many takeaways out of that segment. You're going to be keeping us busy for months. You know, I'm following you on YouTube and Instagram, and I just want to say to the people on this call right now, you want to follow Matt Morris on YouTube and Instagram. Your training material is absolutely legendary. So, Matt Morris, on behalf of Team Expansion, we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, a Merry Christmas. Thank you for all your valued contribution that you do for Team Expansion and for WorldVentures, and we cannot wait to see you in 2020. Thank you so much, Matt Morris.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.